representing something huge. We're going up against Disney. We have our critics, but we have passion and we have a mission in mind that is bigger than just this movie's first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me. I'm Snow White, which is so...
It looks like Zegler is in for some serious competition, and she's not taking it lightly. Her frustration was clear, and her words will leave you questioning what happens when Hollywood's most controversial rising star finds herself in the hot seat.
You know, there's a massive pressure that you place on yourself when you're stepping into shoes like that, but then also the fan base is so huge.
It's not a bad thing. Like, oh my gosh, let's see which worked the best. Brett Cooper is Snow White, I'll bite.
Magic mirror on the wall. The fairest one of all.
And she's not happy about it. But what happens when a conservative YouTuber takes on the role of Snow White? And why is Zegler so furious? In today's video, we're diving into the heated drama between Rachel Zegler and Brett Cooper as the Daily Wire launches its own take on the classic fairy tale. From Zegler's reaction to Cooper's casting to how this rivalry is shaking up Hollywood, we've got all the details. Rachel Zegler has been vocal about her criticism of Disney's original Snow White, but now Brett Cooper is stepping into the role, fully embracing everything Zegler rejected. Could this surprising move shift the future of both versions? And what does it mean for longtime fans of the beloved story? Stick around as we break it all down. And don't forget to like and subscribe for the latest Hollywood updates and controversies.
People everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
I am. Why do they look so smug? They both have that look on their face, just like the feminists, like, yeah, we're so much better than you. Outdated constructs. Oh, you know, that was back in the 30s when women actually wanted to be around men, actually wanted to be in love. Like, feminist girls out there that I know, they still come home, they cuddle up on the couch, and you know what they watch? Rom-coms. They watch rom-coms and BBC, Jane Austen adaptations. We're still women, we still want to be in love, and we still like men. And we still want to find a man that will treat us well. But somebody else said Snow White is kind, hopeful, resilient. Those are traits worth representing. Nope, not anymore.
This woman shown here is not the actual woman playing Snow White, but the woman playing Snow White is named Rachel Zegler. And she and Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, were caught on the red carpet. This is actually from September of 2022, but it's resurfaced now because the movie's coming out, talking about what we should expect from Snow.
Rachel Zegler's casting as the new Snow White in this bold live-action remake has sparked intense backlash, thanks to her divisive take on the beloved character. Instead of embracing the classic fairy tale elements, like true love and the iconic prince's rescue, Zegler dismissed them entirely, calling them outdated and irrelevant. She made it clear that her version of Snow White won't be a damsel in distress, but a leader who seeks power, not romance. Her remarks instantly ignited controversy, with fans accusing her of disregarding the heart of the original 1937 classic. Many believe she's out of touch with what audiences love about the story, while others argue that her statements reflect a larger trend of Hollywood forcing modern agendas onto timeless tales. For Disney, this has turned into a PR nightmare, adding fuel to claims that the studio is pushing its progressive remakes too far. Is this a fresh take on a classic or a complete rejection of what made Snow White magical in the first place?
Just announcing Benke, we also announced Benke's first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me, I'm Snow White, which is so funny to say. Benke has decided to produce their own adaptation of this beloved Grimm's Brothers fairy tale, Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that really is the main point. We're not trying to turn Snow White into a MAGA conservative movie. We're just trying to represent the values that Snow White is based in, the timeless values that we all loved growing up that are sadly being...
What was meant to be a heartwarming reimagining has instead turned into a growing controversy, with critics questioning whether Disney's push for modern values is overshadowing the timeless magic that made Snow White iconic in the first place. Meanwhile, conservative media outlet The Daily Wire has stepped into the fray, casting Brett Cooper as the lead in their own adaptation, Snow White and the Evil Queen. This move is a direct counter to Disney's progressive Remake, with The Daily Wire doubling down on preserving the traditional elements of the fairy tale. Their version promises to stay faithful to the classic story's values, appealing to audiences who feel alienated by Hollywood's constant reinvention of beloved tales. Brett Cooper, a rising conservative YouTuber known for her unapologetic takes on culture and politics, will portray Snow White in a way that emphasizes purity, grace, and resilience, qualities cherished by fans of the original film. The contrast between Rachel Zegler's and Brett Cooper's approaches to Snow White couldn't be more striking. While Zegler has openly criticized the original story's themes of romance and destiny, even going as far as to call the prince a stalker, Cooper's portrayal is rooted in preserving the fairy tale's core message. With two drastically different versions of Snow White now in the spotlight, the question remains, will audiences embrace Disney's modern take, or will they rally behind a return?
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut.
Rachel Zegler's statements have only intensified the backlash surrounding her role, fueling accusations that she is undermining the beloved legacy of Snow White. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper is taking a completely different approach, embracing the timeless values of love, friendship, and beauty that made the fairy tale iconic in the first place. Cooper's version of Snow White and the Evil Queen promises to highlight these traditional themes, catering to an audience eager for a return to classic storytelling. Many fans felt that Disney's casting choices were an attempt to force diversity, straying too far from the Brothers Grimm's original description of Snow White as having skin as white as snow. However, it wasn't just the casting that sparked outrage. Ziegler's dismissive remarks about the 1937 film's themes of romance and heroism further alienated audiences. Critics argue that Ziegler's interpretation of Snow White is yet another instance of Hollywood reshaping beloved characters to fit modern political narratives at the expense of the story's original charm. Her rejection of the classic fairy tale elements, such as true love and a heroic prince, was seen by many as an unnecessary and disrespectful overhaul of a cherished Disney classic. In contrast, Brett Cooper's casting in The Daily Wire's adaptation has been met with praise from audiences who crave a more faithful retelling of Snow White. As two vastly different versions of the story take shape, the battle between modern reinterpretation and traditional storytelling is in full swing. Which version will win over audiences? Only time will tell. Conservatives and traditionalists have rallied behind Brett Cooper, praising her for staying true to Snow White's original virtues. The Daily Wire's decision to cast Cooper, a well-known conservative voice, has been widely interpreted as a direct challenge to Disney's progressive reimagining, offering audiences an alternative that emphasizes timeless values like love, beauty, and moral integrity. Fan reactions to Disney's Snow White remake have been deeply divided. Many longtime Disney fans worry that the studio's push to modernize beloved classics is stripping away the very magic that made them so cherished in the first place. Critics of Disney's approach argue that by turning Snow White into a strong leader while downplaying romance, the studio is sacrificing the heart of the story